Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, mahaba, morimuli wanji, namaste, jumbo, bienvenidos. Hi, my name is Jed Lee, and this is the Reading with Your Kids podcast. We are coming to you from the beautiful neighborhood of Reedville in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. We are so delighted and so very honored that you join us in our mission to help all families grow closer through reading. Please be sure to tell all of your family and friends about the show. Please be sure to subscribe to the show on the iHeartRadio app, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Stitcher Radio, wherever you find your podcast. Join us right now from the beautiful state of California. Our guest is here today to celebrate his great new book, his delicious new book, Monster Mac and Cheese Party. Please welcome to the show, Todd Parr. Hey, Todd, how are you?
Hey, good. Thanks for inviting me. I don't think that you got in the notes that my name was changed to Todd Party. Years ago, I went to a school. I walk in, it said, "Welcome, Todd Party." It just sounds more fun, so I've sort of been going with that now, but you can call me Todd Parr, Todd Party, whatever you want.
Well, that sounds great. Monster Mac and Cheese Party. What's that like? I'm imagining it's a school custodian's nightmare.
Well, everyone knows that I love macaroni and cheese. It's just a very kid-friendly thing, so associate with. I've written about it in my books before. I had a famous page in It's Okay to Be Different. When that came out nearly 20 years ago, it said, "It's okay to eat macaroni and cheese in the bathtub." All it was to throw off the readers because I thought this book's getting too serious. Put something in that no one will think of. And that just came across my mind. Not something I've ever done, not something I've thought about. But when I put it in, obviously it upset a lot of moms and dads because kids everywhere wanted to eat macaroni and cheese in the bathtub. So I heard them, and I was like, no, that's just to make you laugh and throw it off. But it started a trend. And so ever since, at events and that, talk about my favorite food, macaroni and cheese with worms, and young kids love the ooh. And so this book came about by it's different for me, exploring the idea of characters and a whole story to it versus my other books, which are just, message driven. So this is a new direction for me. We did a new cover where I use the block font for my name. It's been on my books for 20 some years. We've used my own font in most all my books. This one, we just have a block Todd Parr by on the cover. We used a standard font, so it's just a little bit of enough of a change for me that it felt sort of refreshing. And then, who doesn't love macaroni and cheese? So
there you go. Well, I'm just imagining, you mentioned that first book came out in 1999. If it came out a few years later, I'm imagining there would have been pictures all over social media of kids eating their macaroni and cheese in the tub. Yes. I still have pictures I see posted, and they're like, Todd, but they get creative, like they create a cardboard box and call it the bathtub, and the kids sit in that, holding up their macaroni and cheese. So, but yeah, some people have taken it all the way to, they embrace it. They're like, Todd, we did it. Well, this is great. 1999 was your first book. What did you always dream about writing for kids? No, and actually, my first 4 books came out in 98. Those were small little 6x6 books. We did 4 at once. And then we did some more of the smaller books. So I think it was really 2001 that It's Okay to Be Different came out. And it's my best-selling book. I was down the path of the art path. I love to draw in school.
I had to repeat second grade because I couldn't read. I have dyslexia, all kinds of things, but was a visual learner. And so I learned to draw by tracing Snoopy. And I loved art all through school. I got out of school at the advice of my art teacher. I did not pursue art, didn't have a lot of confidence, did other jobs, and I kept coming back to this art thing, and I had more confidence than I did in school. And I said, I'm going to do it. I'm not going to listen to anybody. I'm just going to do it. And by that time, Keith Haring, was big, and it was an inspiration for me. So I just started putting my artwork on T-shirts and greeting cards and spinning my wheels, and trying to license my artwork. And I met someone at the licensing show in New York. She said, I saw your artwork from all the way at the end of the aisle, and I just wanted to see what this was about. And she said, I love your greeting cards, and have you thought about writing kids' books? And I said, no, it's not even entered my mind. I do not tell stories. I do not have characters. I had to repeat second grade. And she said, well, I'm an editor, and I actually kind of think you're already doing it. And there were very few guidelines that she gave. What would you come up with if you were writing a book? And so she didn't hold me back really. And I just thought about my experiences when I was struggling as a kid, and that I would want to write about things that made kids feel good about who they are while learning about differences. So the big takeaway from that was all the years of struggling artists wanting to giving up, but not really giving up. By staying with it, it led me into a path that I wasn't even entertaining.
Yeah. What do you think it was? Because, we've only been talking for a few minutes, and it seems like a lot of your life story involves struggling to learn how to read, struggling to kind of lift yourself up above that teacher's suggestion that you give up art. Where do you think your particular resilience came from?
That's a very good question, and I don't know. I think that I struggled so much growing up. I was lost. I felt most of my time. I had a difficult family life. I spent a lot of time with my grandma, who was an inspiration for me, and also read Go Dog Go to me every single night. And despite that, having that book memorized, that's why it took so long. I could memorize things, but they realized finally he really can't read. And everything was a struggle. I was just pushed along to the next phase, and he's a slow learner. And I've always had these crazy dreams, from when I was younger. I was like, with my best friend, it's like, let's build like an airplane, and it was all out of like wood, and I used a copper pipe as the microphone. And I just, and I had these ideas of owning my own restaurant. And I played with this McDonald's toy that was an actual restaurant that had the little plastic people in it. I played with that for hours and just fantasized about all these wild things that I don't think anybody was dreaming about. And of course, very little of that ever came true. But I was determined. I was determined to do certain things in life. I wanted a job. For my birthday, I asked for a job because I wanted to earn my own money. So at 12 years old, I got a job at Taco Time, cleaning tables for $1 an hour. Because my dad and my grandma knew the owner, and I worked there till I was 16. And I've been determined to live my life. And I think I've seen so many instances where I've lost people and how short life is. And I've always said it's for living, not for surviving. And I just want to take everything in that I can get. And so it's made me just pursue as much as I can. And I've learned by not giving up, things do happen.
Yeah. How do you think your grandmother influences your writing today?
I think she believed in me. She did believe in me. And she never shot down any of my wild, crazy ideas. I came home, went to her house one day, and I said, I want to open up my own restaurant and I'm going to call it Scoops and I'm going to sell this. And I was in high school and, instead of saying there's no way, she said, well, let's price out everything on the menu. Let's figure out what prices you would need to charge. Let's see what it would cost to actually do all of this. And slowly, as she brought it to my attention, this was like, how can this happen? I said, like, I really want to do this. And she said, just show me how you would make it work. And then she said, well, we couldn't get a loan because you would need somebody that wasn't still in school to be working at the restaurant because you're still in high school. And so it wasn't, you're crazy, that idea is like never going to happen. She just encouraged everything. And I think that's what I remember and respect the most about her is that, she never shot anything down. And she'd say at times, you're a little lost, but you're going to find your way one day. I just know you are. I believe in you. And I think that's so important, you know, for kids to hear that people believe in them, and encourage them and to be confident in the things that I didn't have, you know, certainly with the confidence, but it's a big deal. Yeah. To felt like somebody really believes in you. It's kind of the fire underneath you that keeps you moving forward. You've got a team rooting for you.
Yeah. You know, we speak to parents and teachers and caregivers, and in that caregiver group, I place aunts and uncles and godparents and grandparents, and all those caregivers that are listening, I want to encourage you to embrace this opportunity that you have, that Todd's been describing, to be that cheerleader for the kids that you love. You don't have to be the parent who needs to talk to the kids about being realistic and how's that, you know, and no, you have to have a fallback plan and all of that. Just be there and be like Todd's grandmother said, cool, that's what you want to do. Let's figure out a way to do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Hey, what comes first for you, the images or the story, the words, when you're creating a new book?
It's usually first, it's the idea. I have an idea what the book is, even if it doesn't hold that title. I give it a title right away, and I sort of do like bullet points of what I want to be in this book. And, for instance, in Be Who You Are, I knew why I wanted to write that book. It's because of my experience in trying to be like everybody else in school. And one day I woke up and said, wow, it's really great just to be yourself. And it's easier too. And you have more fun. And so in that, I knew that every page was like, be this, be that, be proud, be confident, stand up for yourself. And so I have the bullet points, and then I go through and then start putting artwork loosely to those words. I still struggle with the words. That's the hardest part for me. And I sort of know that, and I leave it to loosely because I have an editor, and there's always going to be a lot of suggestions and changes. And so I don't worry so much about the words anymore. That's not a strength of mine. And instead of hiding it or pretending, that's not my strength, and I have help to get me through that.
Yeah.
So,
you know, I'm just thinking, you know, we encourage families to read with their kids, Reading with Your Kids podcast, and we love the conversations that can come from not only the stories, but also the author's kind of backstory. And I'm hoping that parents that are listening to this and pick up Monster Mac and Cheese Party or any of your other books as they're reading with their kids, maybe share a little bit of your story and a little bit of your struggle. And just so the kids know that, because every kid is going to struggle at some point. Mm-hmm. And just so that they can know that they don't have to do it by themselves, that they can find a team and they can do that thing that they're really great at, and then find some people who can help you do the things that you're not so great at.
Absolutely. And, you know, I always say, you know, that in the process of writing the book to the kids, it's like, you have to have patience. You're going to struggle. You're going to get stuck. but don't be afraid to ask for help, because when you ask for help or you have to make changes to something because your teacher is making you do it over, and in my case, in most cases, it always makes it better. And we can't all be everything at once. And if somebody says you're the author and illustrator, that doesn't make you the expert. It just means that I do all the work, or all the pictures, and the words. The concept is mine, but I have help, a team behind it. And by allowing people to do what they do best, and not micromanaging everything and trying to control it and pretend like you know what you're doing, you end up with the best thing possible. So, I encourage kids to ask for help. And, and reading for me, it's like, oftentimes when I go to schools, there's a chair for you to sit in. It's a quiet time. And for me, it's always been about the experience and the engagement. It's like, I want to bring the audience into what I'm doing. I stand, I don't sit, I engage from the beginning, about how many of you can draw better than me, raise your hands. And I want them to be a part of the process. And it was a lot like, I think, with my grandma, with her reading the book, Go Dog Go, it'd be like, we read it, a million times. And she's like, well, what do you like about this particular page? And which dog is your favorite dog? And why is that dog? And what do you think is happening at that party in the end? And so she made engagement with, during that process. And that's what I do at every one of my readings is welcome the audience into the experience that we're having. And I think, kids get the concept of, oh, that's the guy that did that book. But what does that mean? First it means writing it. The next thing is you gotta show your book off to people. You've got to be, I'm going to read this to you and I'm going to ask you questions about it. And I'm going to ask you what you think and include you.
I'm imagining, we talk a lot about how empowering it is for a parent to ask a kid while you're reading a book, what do you think about this? For the most important person in a kid's life to say, I'm curious about what you're thinking. I'm imagining that being at one of your readings and having the author, this big famous author of this book, asking me what I think about his book, that must be super empowering and amazing for the kids that are experiencing that.
It is. And, it isn't so much about the message of the book. It was the experience, and whatever they take away from it, there'll be bits and pieces, that they'll remember, and they'll mean like, well, Todd wrote that book. And in it, he said like, if we take care of the earth, it will take care of us. Or there's other examples of like, just little things that come out that you're not even expecting they're going to hold on to or remember. But because you included them, they tend to absorb more of what is happening around them, I think.
Yeah. You are telling stories through your illustrations, through the stories that you're writing. You're also creating films and television. Do you have a favorite medium to be telling stories through?
I think exactly what I'm doing now, through my books, and then the delivery of it via either, online Zooms, which I've done a ton of those the last 3 years. The TV is a harder thing for me. The creative part of it is there. I'm not so interested in the mechanicals of animation and, different things. It's sort of just like, am I creating something that's unique, but yet familiar, something that's doing good, something that's giving back? It's not just about me, writing a book, loving my job, getting paid, and then write another book. It's about delivering content that helps make a difference to other kids and in the world, that makes, them better human beings. Or talking about a situation like the goodbye book, it's really hard. No one wants to say goodbye. And at, 4 to 8 year olds, how do you really approach that? And there's so many instances of, best friend moving away to class pet dying, or, it gets bigger. And, it took me a long time, 7 years, thinking about, I need to do a book about that. But I'm so proud of it that I did, because when it came out, I heard from all kinds of adults like, Todd, I lost my husband of 55 years. And finally, for the first time in 2 weeks, I've been able to sleep after reading your comforting words. And I have to, she was recognizing the fact that she had to grieve for me because somebody could not have written a book like this without experiencing loss themselves. And, it's like, that was so powerful. But also the book, I didn't want just to be about, dying. I wanted it to be, I got to move across the street. See ya. Bye. I don't want to, and that purpose. So.
Yeah. We started talking a little bit about the struggle that you had as a kid, struggling with dyslexia, and then your art teacher. What are you struggling with now? What story is inside you that you're struggling to get out and tell the world?
I think it's reaching a little bit older audience. I think, my books are used by adults for adults, just in teaching purposes and lessons built around them. I do hear from people that, read it to, did an author study for 5th grade. I think younger people, like the young adult thing is like, there's so many issues and so many struggles. And with social media and everything else and suicide and just the kids struggling to be, it's not okay just to be who you are. It does, it's like, you've got to be like somebody else on social media and you want to be just like them. And I think it's like, it's really okay just to love yourself, be who you are, believe in yourself, and tune out the noise, and move forward with your purpose of living and experiencing life, because it's so short. And I'm looking at ways now that how can I write for my age group, but make it old enough that it appeals to, like, I have the perfect teenager to give this book to, which is often done, as you know, with Dr. Seuss books for, school. It's like, adults giving it to adults or to teenagers. So, I'm experimenting and exploring, will people buy off on that, this is a great book for a teenager as well as a 4 to 8-year-old.
Yeah. Well, we wish you great luck with that. And I really wish I could tell people where to go to find out more about you and find out more about Monster Mac and Cheese Party.
It's my own website, toddparr.com. Very, very easy. You can Google Todd Parr and find way more information than you want to read. I think this just, am I single? There's so much out there, but it's an easy name, Todd Parr. And toddparr.com, there's lots on there. And the book comes out June 27th. And I should have put a disclaimer in the book because it ends with my signature. I always end each book with a message, but I added another page where I did 2 of my favorite recipes for mac and cheese, and they are the actual recipes. So that's a bonus. And as an afterthought, as I've been reading the book now to kids on Zooms, I should have put a disclaimer warning. This book will make you hungry for macaroni and cheese. So be prepared. Because everybody's like, Todd, now we want macaroni and cheese. I said, I know. It should be, have it ready and then read the book.
There you go. What a great book to be reading in front of a plate full of mac and cheese.
Absolutely. That will make you feel good and change your day if you're having a bad day. So, I hope it helps.
We've had a great time talking to the author of Monster Mac and Cheese Party, Todd Parr. Todd, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you. Take care.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast and will join us for the next exciting episode. If you want to make sure you don't miss a second of the show, please be sure to subscribe to the show on the iHeartRadio app, on Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Stitch Radio, wherever you get your podcasts. And also be sure to visit readingwithyourkids.com and download your copy of the Reading with Your Kids online magazine. It's free. It's available at readingwithyourkids.com. Just click on our blog. Before we go, I want to make sure that I give a big thank you to my team: Fatima Khan, Rory Grady, Madison Dairies, Soji Franklin, Monica Rivera Sosa, Ann O'Leary. I want to give a big thank you to my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me, and most of all, we all want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today, and as always, thank you so very much for taking the time to make the world a better place by reading with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.